Hi, Making Bone Gang, and welcome to episode 4 of the Pelican Bone Outdoors podcast. Today we have Derek Plaisance. Did you hear that? The clapping and stuff?
Oh, I did. I did. Yeah.
Okay. I just got this new little gadget and I can put sounds and stuff on it, so I'm going to be probably annoying people playing with that throughout the podcast. Try not to do it too much, but I had to play with it. But how's it going, man?
It's going. It's going good. How you been?
Heck yeah. Oh, not too bad. This weather is amazing.
Oh, dude, it was 55 when I left my house this morning for work.
Oh, I bet
And
it feels better up there.
oh yeah, yeah.
Y'all had the winds too?
No, not a lot of wind. Just
Dude,
cool, dry air.
we had some pretty good wind today. All right, yeah. Still getting things together, man. I'm still getting used to this whole podcast thing. Episode 4, I'm still working out the kinks. So but anyway, man, how long have you been doing taxidermy?
So I got into taxidermy probably 2008. Yeah, 2007, 2008. Um, how it all started, I killed a bobcat. It's my first ever bow kill. Shot this big, beautiful bobcat. I brought it to a taxidermist. He and I eventually became pretty good friends, but it was like years, and he never mounted my bobcat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? I draw, I paint, I do a lot of artistic stuff. I was like, I bet I can do this because it's no different than anything else I do. It's just 3D.
Right.
So I bought a bunch of videos, bought some DVDs, YouTube. There was a taxidermy forum, back in the day when forums were like,
When that was a thing.
right, right. And there was a lot of instructional, informational, you know, stuff on there. And I just started reading up on it and watching everything I could about it. And eventually I just started bugging this dude. I'd had my bobcat, not for him to mount my bobcat, but just questions about taxidermy and how to go about it. And he eventually, I think, just got tired of answering my questions. And he said, look, he said, if you can get your hands on a deer, he said, you come by the shop one day, he said, and I will walk you through it step by step, start to finish. He said, that's, a hands-on approach is the best way for you to learn. So buddy of mine shot a small buck. I brought it over to him, and we literally went from fleshing, preserving the skin, mounting through the whole process. And he did one right next to me, and I just followed him step by step on how to do it, and just kind of fell in love with it from there. And I've been doing it, ever since.
Right on. That's all your kills behind you?
Yeah,
Or is that
yeah,
just
yeah. For the most part,
so
there's a bunch of stuff in front of me on the floor, but I'm not gonna.
It's a good backdrop though, man. That's the best one I've had on the podcast so far. I like it.
Well, I figured if we were going to be talking about taxidermy, it would be good to have taxidermy in the background and not
So,
like not like like a bathroom or something.
so the question is, did you put that up for the podcast or was that on
No,
your wall
no,
already?
that's
Okay.
always there. That's always there.
Oh man. So if y'all don't know, this goose behind me right there, Derek did that for me. That's the one I shot in Kansas when I went out there. Um, Big old goose hunt. That was a whole lot of fun with my brother. And then the coyote, I actually got it set up. If you're watching it live or rewatching it, this is the coyote he mounted. Actually, the picture doesn't even do it justice, dude. It looks so much better in person too. But
Thank
it definitely looked real enough for my dog to be petrified of it. I
you.
don't
Yeah.
know. Did you see that video?
Oh yeah, when he was barking at it. Or
Yeah. At first, yeah, he was sniffing the opposite corner because he smelled something different. He wasn't sure what was going on. And then when he finally seen it, he'd go up to it for a second, and then he backed up and started barking at it. I couldn't get him to go close to it for a couple days. He would just bark, and every time he would pass, he'd bark.
Yeah.
But
See, my dog. I'll bring stuff into the house sometimes, especially when it's really hot. My shop gets kind of hot, so I'll bring stuff into the house to dry because it's a little bit the climate. It's a little bit more climate controlled, and I'll leave it in the hallway, like from my garage, and my dog will walk past it, and she doesn't even pay it any mind, you know. So
probably getting used to all the stuff that you
yeah,
bringing in and out.
yeah. Either that or her nose is just like dead from all the chemicals I have around.
Um, so take me through the process and speaking of the chemicals and stuff. Like, walk me through when somebody brings you an animal. What's your first step? I mean, I know I brought you mine. Both of them were frozen solid.
Yeah,
So
so it varies, you know. A deer or any mammal is different from a bird, is different from a fish. There's
right,
different processes you go through for each one, from how you should preserve it in a freezer to what I do with it when I get it. But for example, if somebody brings me a deer, um, I can't put a whole deer head in any of my freezers. So if it's frozen, I'll let it defrost. Or if it's fresh, I have to tend to it as soon as it comes in. I'll skin the head out, cut the antlers off of the skull, and then that cape gets rolled up, put in the freezer until I'm ready to flesh it and tan it. When I flesh it and tan it, and I believe we talked about this when you were getting into your trapping thing, but
hmm
I flesh all of my hides with a pressure washer.
yeah, I still haven't tried it yet.
Dude, if I have to sit there and run a knife on something on a fleshing beam, I'm not fleshing anything. If I don't have gas pressure washer, I'm not fleshing anything.
I
So
tried it once with a knife. I forget what it was. It might have been was it a possum? I don't remember what fur it was, but dude, I poked so many holes in it trying to scrape it with that thing. It was terrible.
yeah, if I try to do it with a knife, I'm gonna have a lot to sew. I don't like to sew, so I use a pressure washer, and you can put holes in it with the pressure washer, but you know, you take your time, you do it quick, and man, you can't get a skin as clean with a knife as you can with a pressure washer.
Right.
So after I pressure wash it, um, I will let my skin kind of drip dry for a little while, roll it up into a towel, um, let it sit maybe 30 minutes, just try to get as much moisture out of it as I can. And then I go straight into the tan with it. I use a product called Crotan, and you don't have to pickle the skin before you put it in a tan. Most tans, you have to pickle them in like an acid wash or something like that.
Right.
Uh, and that locks like the hair follicles into the skin. And then when you put it in a tan, I'm going to butcher this because I don't understand the chemistry behind it. But from what I understand, the tan chemicals replace the water in the skin with the chemicals. Right. All right.
Yeah, it takes the oils and
Yeah. It'll
and the
extract.
water.
Um, so from there, once the skin's tanned, I can mount it or I can roll it up, throw it in the freezer, and the skin is stable. So,
Okay.
if my power goes out and I have a freezer full of tanned skins, they're okay. I can leave them honestly out for days and nothing will happen to them. So I try to get all my skins done before this time of year with hurricanes and everything else because
Yeah.
it sucks when you're having to worry about keeping 3 and 4 freezers full of
Yep.
other people's stuff that you can't replace,
Right, and I
from
think I told you that last time I seen you, the guy over here lost, I think, a
yeah,
couple freezers full of stuff.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't imagine. I hate having to call somebody to tell them that their skin's bad when they messed it up. Like to call,
Right. When it
like
was their fault.
you skins, you know, they skin a deer and they cut the cape too short, and I have to call them and be like, look, man, you messed this up, not me. That sucks enough. So to have to call somebody and tell them that my freezer went out and I
Right.
didn't get time, you know.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. And I've had it happen. I had a freezer go out probably 10 years ago, and I lost maybe 5 customer pieces. Um, and now I have freezer alarms, and I check them
So
every
so
other
what
day.
do you do when that happens? I mean, I guess you just reimburse their deposit and
Yeah, yeah. I'll give them their deposit back, and that's about all you can do, you know.
right. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. God,
You know,
yeah,
if it's
that's a
something like,
tough spot.
yeah, if it's something like a white-tailed deer, um, I can get a replacement cape and still mount their antlers
Right.
on with a replacement cape. Um, and most taxidermists, you know, some won't admit it, but if you bring me a deer and it's rotten when it comes to me, which a lot of them are, um, and I can't do anything with the skin, I'll be like, hey, look, I can mount it with another cape. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars for me to replace it, but you
Mhm.
can still get your mount, you know?
Right. Okay.
Um, yeah.
So after the tan, now what?
And so you have your form, um, you know, whatever it is, deer, bobcat, fox, whatever. It's made out of foam, and you rough up your form, which means you take some sandpaper or some kind of abrasive device. You scratch up the form because when it comes out the mold, it's got like a mold release on it. And if you don't rough up the
Right.
form, when you put hide paste, which holds the skin to the form, it won't stick. So you rough up your form. Um, you do for a deer, um, you have to fill the ears. So you can either use like an ear liner, which is a pre-sculpted plastic ear insert that goes inside the ear between the skin and the cartilage.
Hmm.
Or you can use Bondo, like they use to
Like
repair.
regular car bondo?
Yeah, yeah, just regular old Bondo. And you invert the ear, you separate the skin from the cartilage, and you pour Bondo in there and shape it, and it'll harden. You know, you shape it into the shape of the deer's ear, it hardens. And then you rebuild the ear muscles with clay. You sculpt in your eyes with clay, and
Dang.
you put it
So
together.
it's just it's like all kind of different
I,
arts.
I skipped some steps, I think,
Yeah, but that's the gist of it.
but it's just, you know, that's the
And
gist of it.
before I knew, well, I guess before I seen the taxidermy done or whatever, I had no idea it was forms. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize what's inside of it, but it's just the skin of the animal. It's not, like
Yeah,
preserved in and out.
yeah, no, it's just the skin, and on an antlered or horned animal, it's the skin and the skull cap with the horns or the antlers, and that's it. Now, the foam mannequins that we use now, that's that's like the latest technology. Um,
Okay.
Before that, they would use Excelsior, which is wood wool. It's basically like shaved wood, and it's like long strings of shaved wood.
What?
If if that makes any sense, yeah. Um,
Not completely.
I'll have to like send you a picture of a handful of it, but it's basically like wood shavings, but it looks like dry pasta.
And you have to make the form out of that?
And you wad it up. You make an armature out of wire or wood or something in the general shape, like outline of whatever you're mounting. And then you take that, you wad it up, you pack it onto the wood or the wire, then you wrap cotton string around it really tight, and then you just wrap a form out of this Excelsior.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's time consuming, but you get a posable mannequin as opposed to a rigid foam one.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could once you have it all tied up together, you can still move the arm to where you want it.
The legs, yeah, you can position. You can like put a little turn in the body, move the head, and a lot of times, like if I'm on a bobcat or something that's laying up on a log, that trying to find a perfect piece of wood to put that rigid
Yeah.
on is almost impossible. So usually one or two of the legs get cut off, and I'll wrap a leg so I can position it however I want it to where it looks like
Okay.
really laying
So they
on.
don't make those foam mannequins with wire in it that you can move,
Yeah, they
like
do.
joints?
Yeah, but the foam's hard.
Right.
Not, yeah, it's not jointed.
You would think. Maybe you need to invent that and start selling that.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
No, no. So what's the hardest versus the easiest things to mount?
Birds are the hardest, hands down.
Really?
Birds are 100% the hardest. Yeah,
Is it the hardest the skin or it's once
everything, just
crazy?
everything. You know, a bird is they're just super thin skinned, and not all birds are created equal. So, like you'll have like a deer, you know, whitetail, mule deer, elk, you name it, deer. They're all pretty much the same when you skin them, flesh them, tan them, how they mount, everything. Birds, like a mallard, is easier to skin and flesh than a wood duck. And that's easier to skin and flesh than a teal. Like that,
Hmm.
you know, you go from like wet paper with a bunch of fat on it to just wet paper. And when you flesh a bird, you're trying to get all the meat, fat, membrane off of that skin with a wire wheel that's attached to it. It basically spins, and you use that wire wheel brush to knock the fat off. So you have to be like
Amazing.
super delicate with it. You can't overdo it, because if you overdo it, then the skin stretches too much and you can't get it to go back the way it's supposed to be. Um, and then
How
a
many
bird,
birds did how many birds did you mess up when you was
oh,
starting out with that?
dude, a whole lot.
Gee,
Um,
I
and
get
and
frustrated.
dude, I'll be wire wheeling one, and it just yanks it out of my hand, and you can't turn the machine off fast enough.
Gee.
It just eats it. And I've,
I would I would imagine a dove because I mean you don't even need a knife to
dude, I've
skin a
never
dove.
done a dove, but I've heard that they're probably one of the worst. But then something like a merganser, dude, you can't put a hole in a merganser.
Well, no, them things are tough.
They're so freaking tough. It's like wheeling deer skin, you know?
I would imagine like poodoo and gallinoo are probably a little bit tougher than.
Yeah, yeah, they have really tough skin as well.
And for
All,
those not
all
from
your
around here, poodoo is an American coot. That's what we call them down here. 'Cause
yeah,
we got different names for everything.
that incorrect terminology.
That's right.
But no,
Like,
like all your puddle ducks are pretty delicate. All your diver ducks are pretty tough skinned. I don't know why. You know, it's just how it goes.
I'm sure there's some science behind that.
Yeah. And then, you know, you got something like a wood duck, you got a lot more feather patterns and color patterns that have to be perfect or it looks bad, you know, versus a more drab looking duck like a, say, a gadwall or gray duck, where there's not as much going on. You still have to do it right, but you're not trying to line up, you know, a perfect black and white line along the side of it like you are with a wood duck.
Right. Yeah, Frank said I need to get a poodoo or gallinoo for my wall. That's on the agenda, Frank. He actually mounted a gallinoo that I seen the other day. Man, that thing was awesome. So that's gonna be that's definitely on the agenda because I certainly shoot more of those than I do ducks because we don't have any ducks. So
Right. They're more
I
fun to
got it.
shoot, and I'd rather eat Gallinule and poodoo over ducks.
Man, that has got to be the dumbest bird than gallinoo.
Yeah.
Because we'll go out there and they'll come out the lilies and the weeds. You shoot, they go run in. 2 minutes later, they start trickling back out. You shoot again, they go back. They just They'll swim right next to their dead buddy, just not even paying attention.
Yeah.
But when I got that Gallinoo, uh, to bring to my partner, you said that there was all kind of rules and regulations. Let's get into that. Like, what are the different? Because I know alligators. When you take an alligator, it needs to have a tag through it. When
Right.
we and me and Frank got into trapping with uh the river otters and stuff like that, they have to have tags, and bobcats have to have tags for certain things, so they're not mistaken as an illegal animal or whatever.
Right.
So I guess we'll start with the birds. What's the rules with that?
Um, Pretty much with birds, almost everything you do can land you in prison. Um,
That's comforting.
no, birds are the most regulated. Um, like as a taxidermist, I have to apply for a federal migratory bird permit that allows me to have in my possession more birds than what is allowed, basically.
Like a daily limit or whatever?
Like what do they call it? In the aggregate, you can only have
Yeah.
so. I can have 300 birds in my freezer, and it doesn't matter because I have the paperwork saying I'm a taxidermist. You have to renew it like every 5 years. And that just allows me, if they check me, um, I have the proper paperwork to go along with all the birds that I have. Along with that, every customer that comes in has to fill out a yellow card, and it's a federal migratory bird tag, and it has the hunter's name, license number, where it was killed, state it was killed, the date, the species, how it's going to be mounted, quantity of birds you're dropping off, and one has to be filled out for each bird. That tag has to stay with the bird until you pick it up.
Wow.
No exceptions. You can't sell any migratory bird, part, piece, mounted, nothing. So somebody brings me a duck, I mount it, and they do as people do sometimes and just never show up to pick it up.
Right.
I can't do anything with it. I can keep it on my wall or I can trash it. I can't sell it. I don't know if I could give it away, but I can't sell it 100%. I don't give them away, though, just because I don't know if I can
Right.
or not.
Right. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You give somebody
Right.
a present and go to prison.
Right.
That would be my luck.
Exactly. I'm trying to think of what else in regards to birds.
So is it just because you said migratory birds? If I bring you a crow, does that still
Crow's migratory. Crow's considered migratory.
really?
Yes. A crow is considered a migratory bird.
What is it?
So here's
What about like a starling? That's an invasive species.
That's invasive. I could do whatever I want with a starling. I can mount it, sell it. Yeah, I could get a whole 5-gallon bucket full of starlings and mount them and throw them on eBay, and it's perfectly legal. They're invasive. They're not protected under the Federal Migratory Bird Protection Act, which was established way back when people were shooting birds for like the meat market and for
commercial, right?
Yeah, like commercial sale of wildlife.
What's the big punt guns they were using?
Yeah, exactly. So that was established, and that they listed pretty much all birds. Pretty much every bird in this country is on that. I want to say like some game birds. Now, don't quote me on this. This is not.
Do your research. Don't take Derek's word for it.
Call somebody. call LWF and
all the green jeans.
Don't tell them I said it's okay. But I want to say like pheasant. I want to say a pheasant, like a game bird, is okay to mount and sell. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that. I just know that waterfowl, crows, can't do it.
That blows my mind, that crows, because it's not even listed in the same area of the book when you're looking at the, hunt
Right.
rules and regulations. It's not under
Yeah.
migratory birds.
Yeah,
That's wild.
it is.
That's wild.
But it's
So what
considered,
about, like, so alligators? I know you
man,
said we gotta tag them before we give them to you to mount.
right. But the skin, the tag, I don't do a lot of like full alligators or alligator hides. I mostly just do the heads,
Okay.
just a head mount, skull mount. And once the head's separated, they really don't give a shit about the head.
Right.
They're worried about what happens with the skin. The tag has to stay with the skin. So wherever that skin goes, the tannery, wherever, it has to stay with it. I don't need a tag to do a skull mount on an alligator. And then once that skin's tanned, it's a leather good, so it no longer
Alright.
they no
Finished
longer care.
product.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess, well, that's where the money's at in the hide. Well, that's where the money used to be at in the hide. So that's probably why they were more worried about that than the head.
right. It's like
But then
they took the animal, they divided it up, they ranked each piece like at different levels, and then once it gets to a certain point, nobody cares.
right. So what about the bobcats and otters?
So that I'm not 100% sure about as far as the trapping. I want to say it only needs the CITES tag if it's like leaving the state or
Oh,
if
that's right. That
you're
is right.
selling something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
because if you trap a bobcat and like you trap it and you skin it out and you just throw it in your freezer and
Yep.
you're gonna scan it yourself,
Yeah, it doesn't need a tag, I don't
I
think.
again, don't quote me on that. I just
Well, I'm still new to trapping. This will only be my second season trapping, so I've forgotten a lot already
I
with some
only
of the.
ever catch coyotes, coons, and possums, so and they don't require a tag, so I don't really pay attention to the rest of it.
What's your favorite thing to mount?
Um, honestly, reptiles, which there's not really a market for, but I like to mount snakes and lizards, and
I would think that would be pretty difficult.
it's super difficult. It's because there's nothing available. I have to make all my own parts and pieces. I have to make all my own
Oh,
body. I usually paint my own eyes. Like I can't just buy commercial eyes. Um, and then it's a different, there's no hair, there's no feathers, there's nothing to hide imperfections. It's kind of like doing fish, except fish is a little bit easier to skin mount um, because they don't have legs or anything. It's just kind of a body. These you have legs, tails, all kinds of weird anatomy. Um, I like to do turtles. Um, yeah,
I have
stuff
to
like.
keep that in mind because there's plenty of reptiles around here I can get mounted.
And I like to do a lot of like life-size mammals, like bobcats, coyotes, fox, stuff like that. I really
Like
don't.
full body.
Yeah, I've gone through this stage where like I decide that I'm going to be a really good bird taxidermist, and then I get all invested into it, and I can put together a decent bird, but I hate mountain birds.
Yeah.
So I'll do them, but it's not my favorite thing to do. Skin,
That's when you overcharge. That way, if they take it, then it's worth the money.
yeah,
It's
and
worth the
some
time.
people, yeah, they'll bring you stuff though, and then
Well, yeah, but then you get to make that money.
right. Sometimes the money's not worth the headaches though.
Well, look, Daniel asks, what about selling a tan coyote bobcat or bobcat hide? Is that legal after it's tanned?
Yes.
There you go. Just those crazy birds.
Yeah, the birds are the worst. Fish, I'm not. I like to paint fish. I don't really like to mount fish. So
That's
I
actually
kind of
something I wanted to get into. You said you
yeah.
stopped actually mounting the
I've
fish.
I've stopped doing skin mount fish. I only do replica fish now. Um, I'm sure if there's some taxidermists watching this, they're going to hang me out for this, but a skin mount fish will never be as good as a replica. Period. They dry out bad. They shrink. You have to rebuild all the shrinkage. The fins are gonna chip. They're gonna break, and eventually, it's gonna turn yellow from grease. 100%.
Got one right here.
That's the skin mount.
Yep. Yep. You can see how
How,
yellow it is. The
how
fins
old?
already. I have no idea. A buddy of mine gave it to me.
Yeah, they just don't hold up over time. You can't take a dried out fish skin and argue that it's going to outlast fiberglass resin.
Right.
It just, you
So
know,
I love the way that looks because
it
the
looks
theme I got going behind vintage. I mean, I got these decoys right here behind me that I found in well, actually two of them I bought in an antique place, like one of those old shops I think in Ponchatoula. The other one I actually found out in the marsh after Hurricane Ida. Um, Actually, I got a few of them that I found after Hurricane Ida. Some of these I think were stuck on in the bottom of a bayou for quite some time until they got stirred up. Uh, a bunch of them have holes in them that was full of water and mud when I got them. But yeah, it kind of matches my decor behind me, all that vintage stuff. But so do you have to? So if I want to get a fish replicated, do I just you just measure it, take a bunch of pictures, and you
That's
just
it.
go to town?
That's it. I need a length measurement, a girth measurement, and take a bunch of photos of it because, every fish has different markings, and ideally we want to match the replica to what you actually caught.
So you hand paint it like airbrush or what?
Airbrush. I use a lot of powdered pigments with a dry brush.
Hmm,
Um, you can use, you could use like makeup, like women's makeup to do
really?
scale detail on fish scales to get that iridescent, shimmery look.
There's a finish, like once you get everything on there, there's a top coat, or that's
Yeah,
just it.
but I do a gloss coat, like a gloss coat of lacquer after every color. So
Okay.
I'll get my base colors down. I'll put a gloss coat, let that dry, and then put another color on top of it. And I keep doing that. That way, if you kind of like mess something up, you can kind of get the last thing you did off, and it won't really affect what's under it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
I guess that coat stops it. It's like doing layers in Photoshop or something.
yeah, exactly. And then when you're done, you put your final, your final clear coat on it, and yeah, you got a nice built up layer of colors.
How many you used to do fish though? Scale. I mean skin.
I used to do skin mount fish, and
I
then
imagine.
I did a few like bull reds, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. It's just not
Are you the scales stay on when you do that?
some
I
do.
figured that would be the hardest part because I mean I started tagging redfish. I got into that tagging program, and I can't even stick a tag in them without them losing a couple scales.
Yeah. The big redfish scales will come off. Sockeye are really bad about losing scales.
I can't imagine trying to skin a sock.
Yeah,
So the whole head is preserved, or
yeah, yeah, yep. So
skin on?
you can either detach the head from the skin, or you can leave it attached. If you leave it attached, it's a little bit more of a pain to like get inside of the head to clean it out because you have to basically cut out like the brain cavity and the entire back of the head from inside the back of the head, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have to like clean it out from the inside, pop the eyes out, and it's the actual skull of the fish is what gives the head its shape, and then the rest of it's just skin and fins.
How do you tan that?
You don't. You just you. I mean, you can tan a fish, but Most people just use like a dry preservative or like borax.
Right.
You know, if you don't know what borax is, it's old school laundry detergent that'll kill insects.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Put a
it's for
pile of it,
everything.
kill mice. Um,
So how do you so I got matter of fact, it's behind me back there. I got a jar. Actually you can see it right there. Um I got a snake skin in that. I got a water moccasin snake skin. That was 50/50 alcohol and that
Glycerin.
other stuff that glycerin, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that that's gotta be probably a different process than what you use to
So
tan.
you can do that. A lot of people do that on snake skins. I don't like to do it because it's really, it works better in drier climates with less humidity, where that it'll remove. Here it's too humid that glycerin gets sticky, and if I take that snake skin out and try to like let it lay and dry, all it's going to do is just collect a bunch of dust, and it's going to look like shit. So I steer away from that. If I'm going to do something like that where I just want like a dry snake skin that I'm going to put on a board and seal, I'll either throw it in a tan or I'll just put it in 50/50 denatured alcohol and water. And
Okay.
that'll, yeah, the alcohol, even though it's mixed with water, the alcohol removes water from the skin, like it evaporates the water off. So when you take it out to dry, it'll actually dry, you know, hard and firm. And if you're putting it on a board, tacking it on a board, um, it works pretty good.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna do with that one is well, the internet said they'll only leave it in there a few days and it's been in there for months now. So I have to see if I don't know if
It,
that's gonna hurt it.
it's probably fine. Um, as long as you haven't like been opening the jar, taking it out, messing
No.
with it. Yeah,
No,
if
it's
it's
been
in
in there.
the jar, it's probably fine.
Yeah, I got a actually I got a well, it's not a flushing board, it's the board that you stretch the animal on to dry when in trapping.
Yeah,
Uh
straight.
yeah, TJ gave me that. It was an old one that they had over there. And I was thinking about mounting the snake on that just because it would look cool.
Yeah.
No other reason. But Tyler asked you if you ever did any exotic animals not native to America.
Um, yes and no. So I've mounted animals that aren't native to America, but they came from America. So,
Imports.
yeah. So like a lot of like Texas exotics, axis deer, fallow deer, black buck antelope. I have a wallaby like 5 feet from me sitting in the
Really?
yeah. Um, you know, all the reptiles I mount, obviously monitor lizards. None of that's from the U.S. Um, so yeah, I've done exotics, but they've all been homegrown.
Yeah, Texas has got everything.
Everything, literally
And if
everything.
and if they're not careful, it's gonna be everything running wild. You seen those warthogs they got running loose now?
No, I didn't see that, but I
That,
mean, half the shit they have down there is already free range. I mean,
yeah.
there's, you know, you can get a lease in West Texas, and there's no telling what's going to be on it. I went hog hunting with a guy out around the Uvalde area back in April, and he was telling me they have axis deer, they have elk, they have aoudad. You just don't know what's going to show up on the property, and it's
I
not
don't even
fenced.
know what half those things are.
Yeah,
No, but they were saying that the yeah, because you already know the hog problem they got over there.
yeah,
I mean, we got them bad, but they got them terrible.
yeah,
Well, these warthogs got loose, and because the climate and everything, the landscape and everything similar to what they lived in Africa, they going wild. So pretty soon there's gonna be warthogs mixed in with everything too.
yeah. That's crazy.
And I'm sure they breed and multiply just like pigs. So they're gonna
Yeah,
have a mess on their hands.
it's a different world out there, man. They just, you know, the hunt. You know, I worked for a shop in Texas um, for about a year last year. I give a little backstory. In 2020, I decided January of 2020 I was going to jump into this full time. right?
Right.
2 months prior to the world ending. Uh, after like 13 years or so, I'm like, you know what? I'm finally gonna, things at work were kind of slowing down, and I was like, I'm just gonna jump into this and either sink or swim. Well, I sunk bad. Um, Nobody was getting anything mounted. All the stuff I had, nobody would come pick up. Um,
Huh.
you know, everything from I lost my job to I didn't want to come by because I didn't know, I didn't want to get you sick. And I'm like, man, look, Venmo is contactless,
Right.
you know?
I'll leave it on the doorstep. You just come Venmo and pick it up.
Exactly. Um, so I finished the work I had and things were getting really slow. I contacted a buddy out in Texas. I was like, look, you need some help. And he's like, dude, come on. So I worked with him. He has a pretty big shop. There was like three to four of us in there at a time, mountain finishing, doing whatever. And I just got to work on some really cool stuff while I was there, but you never knew it was going to come in, um, deer, exotics, stuff I could never afford to hunt,
Right.
you moose and just all kinds of stuff.
I guess sells because like fishing when the pandemic hit, like you couldn't keep fishing stuff on the shelves in any store. You walk into Academy and it
Yeah.
was just wiped out. No fishing combos. Like everybody's like, we got to quarantine. Might as well quarantine. Out on the water, which I
Right.
completely agree with. That's certainly what I was doing. But I would imagine would have been the same thing. I mean, going out in the woods and including doing the outdoor, unless hunting's not as accessible as fishing. And of course, people worried about losing their jobs and stuff would obviously be an issue. The spend getting amount.
Right. And I think it had a lot to do with the time of year too. Everything kind of collapsed in March. So that's when most people transition from, that hunting mindset into
Right.
fishing. And the only thing you can hunt that time of year is turkeys, which from what I understand, there was like record numbers of turkey license sales across the country. Like
Yeah,
an
it's a
unprecedented,
thing.
yeah,
It's wild.
just that nobody had anything to do and there was, turkey season.
That's something I still need to go do that turkey hunt.
Yeah, yeah. I every year I say I'm gonna get into it, and when the time comes, I just can't make myself care about turkeys, man.
Right.
Like, I want to do it bad. I want to kill one. I've never killed one, but like when the time comes, I'm like, man, I'm not going to chase a damn bird.
Right.
I'm that just it doesn't get me excited like deer hunting does.
See, it's probably because I've never shot a deer yet. That's probably what it is.
That's
But
why.
when if somebody's like, look, you want to go deer hunting or you want to go duck hunting, I'm gonna pick duck hunting every time.
Yeah, and see, I'm not
Unless you can, I guess, unless you can guarantee me the duck, I mean the deer, then maybe. But
right. But see the way I look at it is, if I go deer hunting and I don't see anything, I had like a nice, relaxing, just sit in the woods, got to watch the sunrise. If I go duck hunting, it's like a lot of effort with very little reward.
so
Like,
here's the difference. Here's the difference. The way you're talking about deer hunting, I've experienced once, maybe twice when I was younger. The last 3 years, now I didn't do it very often, and my partner will tell you that, but it was probably because we hunting out in the marsh on public land. And when I say the marsh, I mean you fall in a floton like 3 or 4 times up to your hip. And you got to crawl out of it just to get to your stand. Not to
yeah.
mention you got to drag the stand out there in the middle of the marsh. It ain't nothing but a big aluminum pole with a chair on top of it.
Oh, dude, hey, I know, I did it,
So you know what I'm talking about. It's
dude.
insane.
Yeah. When I was a kid, like we hunted the park.
Okay, so
And
yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. My dad would take, you know, 2 inch or 3 inch aluminum and make a stand that was basically a lightning rod with a chair on it.
It's exactly what it is.
And you stake it off in the marsh and you sit on top of that lightning rod and, wait for a deer. You can see 1,000 yards in every direction,
Yep.
but you shotgun. So, you know,
And there's so the thing is, if I'm in the woods, I wouldn't mind deer hunting in the woods because I've done it a few times, and a squirrel will get your adrenaline pumping like nothing else because he just sounds like a deer about to come out, and then you realize it's a squirrel. But
yeah,
then you had a little moment of excitement, and you calm down again. You're waiting for the deer. The problem is when you're out in the marsh sitting on that lightning rod, there is nothing to look at.
no,
There's nothing but grass. You'll see a bird fly over every now and then, but that is it. You
yep,
see nothing. So
that's it.
my partner who got me into hunting out there, I actually used his stand because I didn't have one. One morning I go out there and it's foggy. I mean, like you can't see, but maybe 5 yards. So I'm sitting there, I doze off. Anytime I'm sitting still for too long, I start dozing off. So I doze off. At one point, a big bird must have flew over me and scared the crap out of me because all I could hear was wings. So he passed. That was a little excitement. I fall back asleep. Finally, he tells me he was yelling at me, hollering at me for like 30 minutes, trying to wake me up, tell me it was time to go back to the boat. So they might have been a whole herd of deer past me, dude. I would have never known I was knocked out.
Well, and the only, when you're in a marsh, you can hear them, walking through that water.
Yep.
Um, so, but man, I don't miss that at all.
No.
Some of the most miserable hunts in my life was as a kid hunting in a park, just being soaking wet, freezing cold, just not knowing. And I think that like my dad and my grandpa would intentionally make hunts miserable. So you appreciate it more or something. My
Right.
grandpa advocate of, if it's miserable, you'll remember it kind of deal.
Right. Burn
Um,
that deer.
but like I can remember being a kid and like at the house and putting on, it seemed like everything I owned to go, and then you'd walk almost a mile and it's cold. You're breaking ice in a marsh. You get to your stand. You're all sweaty. I've fallen in a hole, one or two holes. I got like one hip boot full of water, and the hunter hasn't even started yet. Now I got to sit there, just like freeze for hours
Yep.
and not see anything. Never killed a deer in the marsh. I shot a deer in the marsh with my bow, um, and lost it. And it was the first deer I ever shot. First bow hunt I ever went on. I shot a doe and lost her. And that was the only deer in probably 5 years of hunting a park that I even saw.
Really?
Yeah.
My buddy, I mean, that I don't know if he tags out every year, but he comes close to it. And he gets a lot of deer and a lot of pigs. They got a lot of deer out there.
Yeah. And I think it was more or less like, I was 12 and I was being put in the bad spots.
Right.
Dad, my uncles, their friends, they shot deer all the time,
Yeah.
or maybe I was making noise or moving or something, who
Yeah, the
knows?
problem out there, like you're talking about getting water in your hip boots. I wear waders, but that's not even the issue. It's when it can be, 30 degrees outside, 40 degrees outside, but when you're hiking through all that marsh, it's not an easy walk. So you're
Right.
breaking out in a sweat. You start taking things off, but your shirt's soaking wet by the time you go sit in that stand. And once your body temperature drops, man, it's freezing.
Right. And then you're
And then,
carrying a pack full of dry
yep.
clothes in the event that you do get completely soaked,
And then you climb up your stand to realize once it warms up enough, it's full of ants because ants done built their little house in there, and it's
Never,
just not. It's
I never,
I'm going duck hunting.
yeah, I never experienced that, but I don't know, man. Once I started hunting like actual dry ground, hard ground where you could wear just a pair of knee boots,
Yep.
uh, Yeah, I don't miss hunting the marsh at all. That's
Speaking of duck hunting and my little soundboard, there we go. Yeah, I had to play with it.
yeah. I'm not. I don't know. I enjoy duck hunting when I do it, but it's not something that I'm going to like pursue on my own. Like I'm an
Right.
opportunity duck hunter. Like if you invite me duck hunting, I'm gonna go. But
You dropping hints?
sure,
We need to go do another nutria hunt.
hell yeah, yeah.
That's just so much
Hey,
fun.
I don't know Frank at all, but I know Frank's watching or listening,
Yep.
and I just want to let you know that Vinny said I'm way better with the 22 than you are.
Honestly, you're better than I think everybody I've had on the boat shooting 22.
Uh,
Did you have the
but
scope on yours or no?
yeah, let's go
Okay.
on it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta get a scope for mine.
that was fun, man. We definitely got to do that again.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do it a lot this year, and that's another thing too. We'll go set up the blind, throw the decoys out at first, and then of course you can't use 22s during duck season. You can use shotgun, but still, you go out there if you don't see any ducks, and you just go hunt nutria. And
Duck
me and
hunt.
Frank went out there during teal season, and dude, it was we didn't see any nutria because the vegetation is just so thick, and they got lilies everywhere. So the lilies came out at least 6 to 8 feet from the bank everywhere you went. So if there was nutria, we wasn't seeing them,
Yeah.
but it's coming.
Yep.
So what hunting planning on doing besides deer this year?
Man, that's pretty much all I got. Um, I'm, I just got back from Colorado a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Uh,
that's right.
yeah.
How'd that
Um,
go? Did you get one or was
I got a mule deer. I got a mule deer. I shot it last morning, made a bad shot, didn't recover it myself. And a buddy of ours that was still up in Colorado, um, talked to him and he said he would go just keep an eye out to see if there was like birds or anything, like buzzards.
Mhm.
And he ended up finding my deer the next morning and he got the antlers to a taxidermist buddy of mine up in Colorado and he sent me the antlers last week.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah. And like I was talking about earlier, getting a replacement cape for like a whitetail. I have a replacement mule deer cape coming, so I'll be able to
Oh,
mount.
okay.
Yeah,
Right on.
next few weeks. But um, yeah, we had a good trip. 4 of us went. We got 3 elk and a mule deer. So
Really?
everybody shot. Yep.
That's something I want to do one day. I want to go get them elk. Do a
Yeah,
little exercise first though.
it ruins everything else that you do though,
I bet.
because nothing else is even compares. Like if somebody told me you can have a mule deer tag every year, but you can never hunt whitetail again, dude, I'm signing that
Would do
document.
it.
Yeah, I will take that deal every day. It's a totally different, experience. And then, you're hunting, the weather's nice, it's dry, you can walk like a few miles and you don't break a sweat. It's
Right.
yeah.
Where was that at again? Where were
Colorado,
you at?
like southwest
Okay,
Colorado.
yes, it's Colorado. That's where my buddy goes. Every year, him and his cousins go out there, and he sent me pictures, and it just looks like a postcard, man.
Oh yeah,
It's
and
freaking gorgeous
and
out there.
photos don't do it justice.
No, it never does.
Yeah. Um, but other than that, probably gonna be doing a fair amount of hunting between here and Mississippi. I kind of made this pact with myself a few years ago that I'm not going to shoot another whitetail until I kill one with my recurve. And
Oh,
this will be my third season that I have not killed a whitetail. So
you never got a shot off, or you just missed them?
never even got a shot yet. Just I've seen deer, just nothing close enough to shoot. So
What's the distance on that?
man, like the max that I feel comfortable taking a shot would be about 25 yards.
How many pound draw is it?
It's 45 pound bow.
Oh yeah.
Which, well, with a recurve, it's different with a
Right.
traditional compared to like a compound bow. Um, like a compound, I shoot a 70 pound compound, but all
Mm-hmm.
your when you initially draw it, and then once you get it back,
Yeah,
you're
he just sits
holding,
there.
you're holding a percentage of it. With the
Right.
recurve, when you get it all the way drawn, you're holding the max amount of weight.
Right.
There's no let off. So like a 45 to 55 pound bow is about average what guys will hunt deer with.
How long can you hold it drawing?
Uh, a little while, like comfortably 10, 15 seconds.
So you
And
pretty
then,
much got to be ready to shoot when you're drawing it back.
yeah, you don't, it's not like you can draw and wait for the shot opportunity. You can't hold it back for a minute or two like you can with a compound. Because then you totally miss your shot. Um, it's different. It's fun, but I got to stick to it, man. I can't. At this point,
I
I
think it's
can't.
awesome.
I can't give up. Like I got to do it.
I want to get me a recurve. Well, I want to get me a compound, but I don't have any bow, and I got
Yeah,
a decent length yard. I can just shoot it in my backyard too. It'd be great.
yeah. I've got 7 recurve bows. No,
Really?
I have 5 recurves, 2 long bows. Yeah.
I want to see somebody about that. Sounds like a
Next
problem.
next time you're up this way, well, shoot.
Heck yeah, definitely.
It's fun, man. I don't enjoy shooting a compound. I do it. It's kind of like a means to an end. I'll shoot my compound sporadically throughout the year just to make sure it's my sights are still on, that I'm still hitting where I need to be. But the recurve, like I could pick it up every day and just go out in the yard and shoot, and it's enjoyable.
Need to
You know?
start carving you one, man. Make you one from scratch.
Yeah, dude. So I dove deep down the rabbit hole of learning how to do that, and I'm gonna make my own. It's just a matter of getting all the tools I need. It's a whole, and I don't need another hobby, but
Right.
I'm gonna take on this hobby.
I've
Just
I've gone down that rabbit hole too. I was looking into I went to a powwow in Gonzales, and there was a guy there making them, and he had a bunch of them already made, and then he was sitting there making one, and I was like, man, that would just be awesome to create your own tool, then go out and harvest an animal with just from nothing. That would
yeah,
be that'd be awesome.
if society ever collapses, you're a god
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
you know
and and that's not why I got into trapping, but that is certainly a plus. Like
it
ever since I moved down here into Lafitte, I mean, I'm looking. I done found edible plants that I didn't never even knew existed before, just because I'm like, man, I wonder what that is. Take a picture of it, go on that little app that tells you,
yeah,
yeah, you can eat this, you can eat this. I'm like, huh, I'm gonna make it me. You can have your grocery stores.
right, dude. I'll be eating songbirds and everything else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna tell nobody I know how to do that though. They'll all be knocking at your door.
Right. But yeah, that's kind of one of the motivational factors to like learning how to make a bow. I just think it would. I think it's like I don't know. I feel like just people in general are losing, like those type of skill sets are just going away. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
like just how to survive, like in any situation, how to build a fire, how to you know
yep.
going
And the
into the
close,
woods, knowing how to find animals, what plants you can eat, what mushrooms will kill you.
right?
It's all like valuable life skills.
Yep, and there's been so much lost too over the years from the pioneer days where all of that was just a normal day of life. I mean,
Right.
that's the
Your
only
job.
way you survive, right?
you know,
Yeah, and now, I mean, obviously you're in the city, and then the closer you get to a city, the less it's known, and well, of course, in the city, most people, unless that's a hobby of theirs, don't know. But the further you get out into the country, the more of those skills are preserved.
right.
But yeah, it's definitely a dying thing.
Yeah.
But well, that's it. We're coming up on an hour now, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
And
dude. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again. Definitely do it again. If anybody wants to check you out on Instagram, what's your Instagram handle?
It's just my name. It's Derek underscore Plaisance. It used to be Plaisance Taxidermy, but uh, I'm kind of sort of taking a break from doing taxidermy for a little while. I'm still gonna do it, but I'm not like seeking out new clients. So
Right.
at
I
least
can
right,
respect that.
at least right now, I wanna actually be able to hunt this year a little bit and not have to worry about obligations.
Right.
That
I
that
can
I
understand that.
you know
Well, if y'all want to check out his taxidermy and his artwork, he's got some awesome artwork too up on his Instagram. Y'all go check that out. But that is gonna wrap this one up, folks. Thank you guys so much for stopping in on the live. And if you're listening on the podcast, I appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.